In 1953, a steel mill worker in Pittsburgh saved $4,000 in cash inside a Folgers coffee can buried in his garden. That is about $48,000 in today's money. He never paid a bank fee, never got hacked, and his wife knew exactly where every dollar went. Today, financial advisors call this insane. But here is the twist. Behavioral economists at MIT just proved his system beats most budgeting apps on the market. Number 14 on this list was so effective that credit card companies spent decades trying to kill it. And number 3, a 2024 Federal Reserve report found it still outperforms most savings products available to ordinary Americans. These 20 tricks built the American middle class. Then we forgot them. Sears went bankrupt. Layaway disappeared. Banks made savings accounts pay nothing. Before we start, hit subscribe, because the trick at number 1 might save you $10,000 this year alone. Number 20, the Coffee Can Emergency Fund. Long before the FDIC promoted savings accounts, every American kitchen had a coffee can, cookie jar, or sugar tin sitting in the back of a cupboard. Your grandfather would peel $2 off his Friday paycheck and drop the bills into a Folgers can before he even cashed the rest. By Christmas, he had $104. By the end of the year, double that, in cash, untouchable, invisible to the bank. The trick wasn't the can, it was the rule. The cash went in before bills got paid, before groceries, before anything. Modern behavioral finance calls this out of sight, out of mind saving. A study from 2018 at the University of Michigan found that people who save physical cash in a hidden location save 38% more than people who rely on automatic transfers, because they never feel the loss. Banks would rather you did not know that. Number 19, the written grocery list rule. Your grandmother walked into the A&P with a pencil-marked list, a fixed amount of cash in her purse, and a full stomach. She never deviated. Not once. If it was not on the list, it did not go in the cart. Modern grocery stores spend millions on layout psychology, end caps, eye-level placement, and scent diffusion at the bakery. The Food Marketing Institute's own internal data shows the average American spends 63% more than they planned per trip. Your grandmother's list and cash method made that impossible. When the cash ran out, the shopping ended. She would walk past the candy aisle without flinching, because the budget was already spoken for. A spiral notebook cost a dime in 1962. That dime saved families more money than any coupon app does today. Number 18, mending instead of replacing. Every grandmother had a darning egg, a sewing tin full of buttons, and a pair of pinking shears. A torn shirt did not get thrown away. It got mended on Sunday afternoon while the radio played. A pair of cotton socks cost 30 cents in 1955, the equivalent of $3.50 today. But those socks were made of real cotton or wool, and they could be darned 5 or 6 times before being demoted to dust rags. Modern socks last 3 months. Fast fashion brands actually engineer clothes to fail. That is called planned obsolescence, and the fashion industry openly discusses it in trade publications. Your grandmother spent 30 minutes a week with a needle and saved hundreds of dollars a year. Try mending one shirt this month instead of tossing it. You will be shocked how easy it is. Number 17, the day-old bread shelf. Every neighborhood bakery and grocery store had a day-old shelf where loaves marked down 50% sat waiting for thrifty shoppers. Your grandmother knew exactly when the truck arrived and exactly when the markdowns happened. A loaf of Wonder Bread cost 18 cents in 1958. Day-old, 9 cents. Stale bread became French toast on Sunday morning. Breadcrumbs for meatloaf on Tuesday and bread pudding on Wednesday. Nothing was wasted. According to USDA data, American households throw away 30% of the bread they buy. That's roughly $40 a month per family in the trash. The day-old shelf still exists. Most stores mark down baked goods after 7 p.m., and many bakeries sell yesterday's bread for half price. Your grandmother knew the schedule. We don't even bother to ask. Number 16. Layaway plans. Before credit cards rewired American shopping, layaway was how working families bought big-ticket items. You would pick out a refrigerator at Sears, put down 10%, and pay weekly until it was yours. No interest, no credit check, no debt. The store held the item. You held the receipt. Sears, JCPenney, Montgomery Ward, every department store offered it. The credit card industry quietly killed layaway in the 1980s by making revolving credit feel modern and layaway feel old-fashioned. Walmart brought it back during the 2008 recession and saw immediate demand from customers fed up with credit card interest. The math is brutal. A $1,000 TV on a credit card with 17% interest paid over a year costs $1,094. The same TV on layaway costs $1,000. Your grandparents understood the difference. Modern Americans pay $130 billion in credit card interest a year because we forgot. Number 15. Reusing aluminum foil. Your grandmother washed aluminum foil with dish soap, smoothed it out on the counter, and reused it 3 or 4 times before it got too creased. A roll of Reynolds Wrap cost 39 cents in 1960 and about $4 in today's money. She treated it like fine linen. The same applied to plastic bags, rubber bands, twist ties, and jam jars. Every mason jar in the cupboard came from somewhere else first. Today, the average American household spends roughly $200 a year on disposable kitchen supplies that get used once. Your grandmother's pantry was a closed loop. Foil washed and reused, bags rinsed and dried over the faucet, jars sterilized for jam and pickles. The savings sound trivial. They are not. $200 a year over 40 years, invested at average market returns, becomes more than $30,000. Number 14. Christmas Club accounts. First pattern break. Here is where things get interesting. In 1909, a Pennsylvania bank called Carlyle Trust invented the Christmas Club. You would walk in every payday, hand over $5, and get a stamped passbook. The bank held the money interest-free until December, when you got a check for the full amount plus a small bonus. By 1965, more than 30 million Americans had Christmas Club accounts. Stores planned their entire fourth quarter around the December payouts. Then, something happened. Banks realized that Christmas clubs were a bad deal for them. Customers were essentially loaning the bank money for free, but the customers were so disciplined that the bank made very little selling them anything else. Worse, customers were paying for Christmas in cash instead of borrowing. By 1985, almost every Christmas club had been quietly discontinued. What replaced them? Credit cards. The forced savings model that protected millions of families from December debt was killed because it threatened the lending business. A few credit unions still offer them. Almost no commercial banks do. Ask yourself why. Number 13. Buying generic. Generic groceries did not exist until 1977, when a Chicago supermarket chain called Jewel Osco introduced plain white packaging marked simply beer or cornflakes. Your grandparents were the first early adopters because they understood something most modern shoppers do not. Most generic products are made in the exact same factories as the name brands, sometimes on the same production line, on the same day, by the same workers. The only difference is the label. Consumer Reports tested house brand groceries against name brands across 200 categories and found that store brands matched or beat the name brand in flavor and quality in roughly 2/3 of cases at 30 to 40% lower prices. Your grandmother already knew. The brand premium is mostly advertising and packaging. We are paying for the cereal box, not the cereal. Number 12. The 30-day waiting rule. Before Amazon's one-click button, every major purchase involved a delay. Your grandfather would see a new fishing rod at the hardware store, decide he wanted it, and then, here's the trick, do nothing for 30 days. If after 30 days he still wanted it and the budget allowed, he would buy it. Most of the time he forgot about it within a week. Behavioral economists call this the cooling off effect. The dopamine spike from wanting something fades fast. We just do not give it time to fade anymore. Amazon's one-click patent existed specifically to prevent the cooling off period. The longer you have to think, the less you buy. A 2022 study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that imposing even a 24-hour delay on purchases reduced impulse spending by 45%. Your grandfather's 30-day rule was not old-fashioned. It was airtight. Number 11. S&H Green Stamps, Classic Loyalty Program. From 1896 to the early 1980s, the Sperry and Hutchinson Green Stamp Program was the most popular loyalty reward system in American history. Your grandmother got stamps with every purchase at the grocery store, the gas station, even the dry cleaner. She would lick them and paste them into little books, and when a book had 1,200 stamps, she would redeem it at the Green Stamp Catalog store for everything from toasters to bicycles. At its peak, S&H printed 3 times as many stamps as the U.S. Postal Service. By the 1970s, 80% of American households participated. Modern cashback apps and credit card points are the same idea, but with one crucial difference. Green stamps had no annual fee, no interest charges, and no spending requirements. You earned rewards on what you would have bought anyway. Today's rewards credit cards make banks $50 billion a year because the average user spends 18% more to chase points. Your grandmother's stamps were free money. Modern points are bait. Number 10. Bartering with neighbors. Your grandmother didn't pay a babysitter. She traded with a neighbor whose kids she watched on Tuesdays. Your grandfather didn't hire a plumber for small jobs. He fixed the neighbor's fence, and the neighbor unclogged his drain. This wasn't poverty. This was community economics. The IRS still does not require you to report informal barter between neighbors as long as it is not a regular business arrangement. A 2019 paper from the National Bureau of Economic Research estimated that the informal barter economy in post-war America saved the average suburban household roughly $2,000 a year in today's money. We replaced it with TaskRabbit, Rover, and Care.com, which take 20% commissions and report everything to tax authorities. Your grandmother had a better deal. She knew everyone on the block, and they had her back. Number 9. The clothes line. Your grandmother hung sheets, towels, and clothes on a line stretched across the backyard. She had been doing it her whole life. The sun bleached whites better than any detergent. The wind freshened linens better than any dryer sheet. And it cost nothing. Here is the kicker. The electric clothes dryer is the second largest energy consumer in the average American home, beaten only by the heating and cooling system. The Department of Energy estimates that air-drying laundry saves the typical family about $200 a year in electricity. Over a 30-year mortgage, that is $6,000 sitting in a clothesline. Several U.S. cities and homeowners associations actually banned clotheslines in the 1980s and 1990s, calling them unsightly. The Right to Dry movement is currently fighting those rules state by state. Your grandmother's quiet morning chore was a small act of rebellion against an industry that wanted you plugged in. Number 8. The home vegetable garden. During World War II, the U.S. government promoted victory gardens so aggressively that by 1944, 20 million American households had one. And these home plots produced an estimated 40% of all the vegetables consumed in the country that year. Your grandparents kept gardening long after the war ended because the math never stopped working. A $2 packet of tomato seeds produces, on average, 20 pounds of tomatoes. At today's grocery prices, that is about $70 of produce from $2 and a little water. Lettuce, zucchini, beans, herbs, all return 10 to 20 times the cost of seed. A 2009 National Gardening Association report found that a well-planned 500-square-foot home garden produced an average of $530 worth of vegetables for about $70 in inputs. Your grandfather's tomato patch wasn't a hobby. It was a 750% return on investment. Canning and preserving. Once that garden produced, your grandmother spent a Saturday turning 30 pounds of tomatoes into 20 mason jars of pasta sauce. Pickles in August, jam in June, applesauce in October. Every ball jar held $1 worth of produce and saved $5 at the grocery store. The Ball Corporation has manufactured mason jars since 1884, and they still work the same way they did when your grandmother used them. Pressure canners and water bath canners are inexpensive and last decades. Modern pasta sauce in a glass jar costs $5 to $7. Homemade tomato sauce from your own garden costs about 80 cents per jar, all in. The flavor is not even comparable. Most store-bought sauces use the lowest grade tomatoes because the good ones go to the fresh market. Your grandmother's pantry was full of the best tomatoes she grew. We pay $7 for the worst. Number 6. Cash-only spending. Second pattern break. Controversy incoming. Now, here is where the credit card industry gets uncomfortable. Your grandfather walked around with a cash envelope or a money clip and never owed anyone a dime. When the cash was gone, spending stopped. That's it. That's the whole system. But here is what banks don't want you to know. Researchers at MIT in a study using fMRI brain scans found that people pay roughly twice as much for the same item when using credit cards instead of cash. The reason is something called the pain of paying. Handing over physical bills activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Swiping a card activates almost nothing. The card industry is fully aware of this research. Multiple internal Visa and MasterCard studies, leaked in litigation, have confirmed that contactless payment, in particular, eliminates almost all spending hesitation. Your grandfather wasn't being old-fashioned. He was protecting himself from a system designed to override his judgment. Number 5. Buy it once and buy it right. Third pattern break. Your grandfather owned one good pair of leather work boots. They cost him $40 in 1962, the equivalent of about $400 today. He resoled them 3 times. He polished them every Sunday. He wore those boots for 22 years. The British author Terry Pratchett later named this the Sam Vimes boots theory of economic unfairness. The poor man buys cheap $50 boots and replaces them every year. The rich man buys $200 boots and wears them for 10 years. Over a decade, the poor man spends $500 and ends each year with worn-out boots. The rich man spends $200 and ends with comfortable boots. Your grandfather understood this in his bones. He would save up, buy quality, and maintain it. We have forgotten this. The average American owns more shoes than any generation in history and spends more on footwear, and almost none of it lasts more than 2 seasons. Walmart sneakers, Amazon basics, Shein everything. We are paying more for less. Your grandfather's one good pair of boots was the smartest closet decision in 20th century America. Number 4. The Sunday batch cook. Your grandmother roasted a chicken on Sunday. That was the start of a week of meals. Sunday dinner was the roast. Monday was sandwiches from the carved leftover meat. Tuesday was chicken pot pie made from the rest. Wednesday was soup from the bones. One bird provided 4 meals and fed 6 people. The total cost in 1965 was about $1.10. Adjusted for inflation, that is roughly $11 today for a week of dinners. The modern equivalent, takeout and prepared foods, runs the average family $80 to $100 a week per person. Sunday batch cooking is making a comeback under the trendy name meal prep, but it is the exact same idea your grandmother used. Cook once, eat many. The bones go into stock. The fat gets saved. Nothing leaves the kitchen until it has been used 3 different ways. Modern food bloggers have whole YouTube channels dedicated to this. They are all rediscovering Grandma's Sunday roast. Number 3. Series E and I savings bonds. During World War II, the U.S. Treasury sold Series E savings bonds to ordinary Americans to fund the war effort. Your grandparents bought them out of patriotism. They kept buying them after the war out of common sense. A bond bought for $18.75 paid out $25 at maturity. They were guaranteed by the federal government and untouchable in a market crash. The modern version is the Series 1 savings bond. As of 2024, I-bonds have paid yields exceeding 4%, and they are guaranteed to keep pace with inflation. They have no state or local taxes. They are federally insured, and you can buy them directly from treasurydirect.gov with no fees, no advisor, and no middleman. A 2024 Federal Reserve study comparing risk-adjusted returns found that I-bonds outperformed most savings accounts, most money market funds, and most short-term CDS over the prior decade. Banks do not advertise them because banks do not sell them. There is no commission, no fee, no profit for anyone except you. Your grandparents bought bonds for 50 years. We forgot they exist. Every payday, your grandmother cashed your grandfather's check at the bank, drove home, and divided the cash into envelopes labeled in pencil: rent, groceries, utilities, gas, clothing, church. When the grocery envelope was empty, no more groceries until next Friday. No exceptions, no transfers. The discipline was absolute. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Behavioral Finance compared envelope method budgeters to app-based budgeters over 12 months. The envelope users stayed on budget 81% of the time, and the app users stayed on budget 23% of the time. The reason is friction. Moving money between envelopes is physical and conscious. Moving money between digital accounts is invisible and frictionless. Dave Ramsey built a media empire teaching this exact system. He did not invent it. Your grandmother did. There are now apps that simulate the envelope method, but the data is consistent. Cash in physical envelopes outperforms every digital version. The medium is the message. Number 1, pay yourself first. Before he paid the rent, before he bought groceries, before he did anything, your grandfather took 10% of every paycheck and put it somewhere he could not touch. A savings account, a bond, a Christmas club, a coffee can. It did not matter where. What mattered was when. First, always first. This rule comes from a 1926 book called The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason, which became a runaway bestseller during the Great Depression. Your grandparents read it. Their parents read it. The rule is simple. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Most people pay everyone else first, then try to save what is left, and find there is nothing left. Pay yourself first means you save before you spend, and you live on what remains. 10% of a $30,000 a year salary invested in a basic index fund earning 7% becomes $1.1 million over 40 years. That is not a typo. The single most important wealth-building rule in American history is to put yourself at the front of the line. Your grandfather knew this when he was 19 years old. We have to learn it at 50. Here is my challenge. Pick one, just one. The coffee can, the cash envelope, the 30-day rule, the I-bond, the clothesline. Try it for 30 days. Then come back and tell me your grandparents were just being old-fashioned. Tell me they did not actually know something we forgot. Drop a comment with which one you are trying. I want to see if the envelope system gets more love than the savings bonds. I want to know which rule your own grandmother used that did not make this list. Because these were not just money tricks. They were the foundation of the American middle class, hidden in plain sight in coffee cans and pencil-marked envelopes and backyard tomato patches. Your grandparents knew. Now you know too.